Initially, as one of the newer, younger members, I had, I think I had a bit of a tough time as deputy whip because I couldn't figure out what my role really was and
Mm.
um, how I make sure that the 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 operation, the day-to-day things that happens inside the house, inside the legislature, and how it's run on the opposition side. So as the opposition deputy whip, obviously I work with the house team, and we come up with the plan for the day. And we also have a conservative government where uh, their house leader, for example, or the premier will give public or the opposition very little information about what their plan is, because I feel like sometimes they have a very sneaky plan, or that they don't want to share it, and or that they don't actually have a plan. So what ends up happening is they will introduce a very problematic omnibus bill, for example, without really telling any stakeholders, without really telling the public or the opposition. So we're really in a really strange sort of uh, field, trying to figure out what the rules of the games are, um, all the time. And as deputy whip, I have to make sure that whatever the bill may be, we have people who are prepared. So if the bill has something to do with childcare, so the person who's in charge of childcare needs to be there to speak to it. And the same thing with we had environment related, we had transit related, we had housing bill, the bill 184. I'm sure you're hearing about eviction bill, which is very problematic. And the critic for that was actually not in the House when the bill was called for debate, because the government didn't even tell anyone that they were introducing it. So it becomes very problematic. So over the last months, it's been sort of being the class captain, um, if I could say that, and I think that's the best way I can explain is if you had prefects, for example, in high school, or if you have class captains, um, then that someone has to make sure that we are following the standing order, and the standing order is how the day-to-day operation is in the House. So there are certain guidelines as legislative assembly members that we have to follow. So as deputy whip, I have to make sure that that gets that is followed well, making sure that we communicate with the speaker as well as the clerks, making sure that we communicate with the entire caucus and the House team for what needs to happen, as well as making sure that we are in a way disciplined inside the House. So you're being respectful, you are in the House of Parliament, you're being very careful of how you operate as well. So it was obviously it was a learning experience, and there's a lot of things that took place. And I think the sort of the class captain metaphor is probably the best way to
Okay.
put
Yeah.
it. And you guys should come by sometimes in the legislature, because once things open up and when it's safer, because you'll get to see the work that I do, and you'll also get to see how we operate in terms of debates, and how bills get called, and let's say if there's a vote, and the new methods we have, which is sort of similar to the British method of voting. So in that case, as deputy whip, I'm making sure that all our members go and vote, and they know what we decided as caucus, how we're going to vote for something, where we're voting for or against this bill. And that's it. That's a decision that gets made during our caucus meetings, where we actually all decide how we're going to do that. Um, and if someone wasn't there, or if someone is unsure, you got to make sure that they are walking through the right door, because now we're using the British method, where you walk through the lobby doors and come to the House, which really goes for or against votes, versus before you would stand up in your seat and vote by standing up. So there are a few things that we get to do as well, in terms of voting and passing bills.